In this video, Champagne Bubbles gets a full service interval. Stay tuned. Welcome back and/or to the channel. Today our guest is Champagne Bubbles. Obviously this vehicle has come up on a service interval, and you'll have that from time to time with any vehicle. You're going to have service intervals. You know, it all depends on whether you're doing an oil change, whether you're checking over the vehicle to make sure there's other things that aren't bad. So your manual is going to say that you can go to 7,000 or 8,000 miles before an oil change. I like to do my oil changes a little sooner than that. When I'm pulling them even at 4,000 miles, they're getting really black. And to me, that's too much carbon buildup in the oil. I don't care if the synthetic is strong enough to hold up to the pressures over time. I don't like those carbon deposits sitting in those oil and potentially contaminating the rest of the motor. So for me, it's better to just pull it. I used to do them at every 3. If you were on the old carbureted vehicles, you do them more often. I talk about this in few of my oil changes. If I get a chance, I'm just going to link one of them down below. Today is not an oil change, so I want to make that clear. We've already done an oil change on this vehicle on the channel, so we're not doing another one. But the service interval light came on, and this light is to have you check other things with the vehicle that you may not check during your oil change. And some of those things are going to be suspension components, cabin air filter. You should be checking your engine air filter, but if you don't do it, you're supposed to do it then. When we reset this service interval light, I'm going to change it so that it comes back on after 4,000 miles. And when I do my service intervals, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to check it all at that time. But the way Kia had it set up, this was the service interval. So during this video, we're going to cover what you need to check when you're doing it. And some of the things are pretty basic. Obviously, looking for any leaks, checking your serpentine belt, checking your engine air filter, stuff like that. So really, let's get into it. And then at the end of this video, we're actually going to reset the interval light on these. Now, there may be a few videos out there that have this, but I haven't done one yet for this vehicle on the channel, and I want to get it out to you guys. So we're going to actually reset the interval light on this vehicle. Well, let's get into it. The biggest thing that I want to check, and we're going to start under the hood. So, under the hood, what you're obviously doing is checking your alternator. Make sure your windings don't have a bunch of green in them, that they're all corroded up. Check your serpentine belt. Make sure it isn't crack or frayed or chunks missing out of it. Check your idler pulley. Make sure your idler pulley is in good shape. If it isn't warm, you can sit there and wiggle the idler pulley, see how much wiggle it has. If it has a lot, you're going to have to replace it. Your tensioner would be right here. There is marks here that say how good the belt is, or if the belt is wore out. Now, if it gets to the other side of that mark, you will have to replace your belt because your belt is stretching too far. Now, because it's a fairly new vehicle, I don't need to. When you're looking for oil leaks, you're looking right up here along your valve cover gaskets. You're also looking on the front side of the motor, and you can remove this cover. It just snaps down into place. It pops up. So you're going to look underneath there for any leaks. Now I already have, so I'm not going to pull it all the way off. You're going to check your coolant reservoir bottle, and this one's a little low, so what I'm going to do is get some coolant for it. Now this does take different kind of coolant, so I will have to get it from Kia. Next thing we're going to check is our brake fluid. Make sure that's full. Check our battery connections. Check our air filter. Now I did just do it, so I'm not going to pull it, but all it is a clip here, pull it out, check it. Not a big deal. Top off windshield washer fluid. Obviously, do a walk around with your lights, checking all your lights. I've done all that. I've checked the air pressure in my tires. This was stuff that I would do during an oil change. Now, Some of the stuff we didn't do normally under an oil change is check our brake pads and check our rotors. Make sure our rotors are not grooved. Make sure our brake pads are not completely wore down. The other thing you'd want to check is up inside on your suspension. Check your strut. Make sure that strut's solid. Reach in there, grab the strut, move it back and forth. If it wiggles, you got a bigger problem. Underneath, you're going to have control arms. These control arms, like right there, those control arms need to be checked. Make sure that there's no play in them. Again, you would grab them and wiggle them. Up front here, you have, again, another strut. You want to just grab it, give it a good shake, make sure it doesn't wiggle around. When you're underneath the vehicle, now I did this when I did the oil change, so I'm not fully showing it here, but I checked my lower A-arms. Again, you check the bushing grommets that would hold grease. Make sure they're not ripped or torn. Check your sway bar links. Make sure they're not ripped or torn. Pretty basic. There's not a whole lot to know there. The other thing you can check when you're underneath there, if you don't have a whole lot of shields, is look at your brake lines. Make sure your brake lines are not corroded. Make sure that your fuel lines are not corroded. If they're showing corrosion, then you may have a bigger issue. So, something to keep in mind when you're doing this interval. In the back, what you're going to be checking is your lights, both your license plate, your turn signal, and your brakes. And most vehicles will have the third brake light, so you will have to check that as well. Once you've done all your exterior inspections, both under the hood and in the motor, that would cover most of what you need to do. The other thing you would have to do is check a cabin air filter, which I normally do my cabin air filter every other oil change, but that would be located right here behind your glove box. So what you do is you let your glove box down, and it's right behind here. That's where you could check that. Now, what I need to do is close the hood, and we got to reset that service interval. Okay, now that we're in the car, resetting this is very, very simple. You'll have your main display that you'll have set up here. Whatever you choose for your settings, this is your normal main page. Go over here to this little page button. Click that page button, and you're going to work your way all the way over to the gear. Once you reach that gear, you're going to scroll down until you see service interval. Then you come back and click the OK button one time, and it'll pull this up. To reset, all you got to do is click and hold it again. This will pop up. All you need to do is click yes, and you're good to go. Now on some of these, they actually allowed you to change the mileage. I've tried on our model, and it doesn't let us. And I'm going to try to do a little bit more homework on this, but the way this is looking, you were supposed to be able to click this one time, like this, and then it'll bring you into a menu that allows you to either turn off your service intervals or change the frequency of them. This vehicle is not letting me do that for some reason. Now, I don't know if that's just in the programming of the vehicle. So yours may be like this, where the service interval will be turned on and you cannot adjust. Otherwise, you'll click into it one time like this, and you'll be able to scroll up and down right here to be able to get to a menu point to where you can adjust that service interval. But like I said, this one's not letting us. So that's pretty much how you'd reset that service interval. It's pretty basic. You can do it with the engine running. You can also do it with the engine off. It will work either way. But it's not just resetting that light. The light is for oil changes. It's also for checking over the vehicle, making sure you don't have bad suspension components, anything leaking, make sure your battery connections are solid, making sure you don't brake lines or fuel lines that are leaking. And it's important to check those things. they can be major things that can cause either fires with the vehicle or cause massive issues. So taking the time to reset it is very important. But I'm glad I had a chance to do this video, kind of show you how to reset the service interval on a Kia Soul, a 2020 EX. But I'd like to say thank you for watching. So hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.